Hello everyone, peace and blessings. So we're back at it again with another video to discuss another verse. And I'm here with my brother Abu, who was going to introduce the verse.
Indeed. So now you believe in conscious disembodied spirits, right? So I want to challenge you with a verse that I often see get brought up by those who deny the possibility of consciousness between death and resurrection. And that verse is Ecclesiastes 9:5, which reads, quote, "For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything," end quote. Now, that seems pretty clear for a lot of people, right? The dead know nothing. That seems to mean that they're unconscious. So here's my question to you. How do you explain that?
Well, that verse might not mean what they think it means. But to show this, I want to turn to another verse, that being 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 39.
All right, let me get that. All right, let's see. 1 Samuel 20:39. Quote, "But the lad knew not anything. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter." End quote. All right, so how is this relevant to the verse in Ecclesiastes?
Okay, let me explain. Think of each verse as contrasting those who know a certain thing with those who do not know that thing.
Okay.
But let's look at the Hebrew text of each verse. So first, in Ecclesiastes 9:5, the living know that they will die.
Hachayim yod'im sheyamutu.
Right. And then the second part of the verse, when it says the dead know not anything.
Vehametim einam yod'im me'uma.
Right. Enam yodim me'uma. They do not know me'uma. That last word, me'uma, means a thing, a matter, a point. It's saying they know not a certain matter.
I don't know. This is a little vague, to be honest.
I understand. But this is where the verse in 1 Samuel comes in. So let's pull up the Hebrew text for that. Look at how the Hebrew text reads for the part that says the youth did not know the matter.
All right, let me get that. Hana'ar lo yada me'uma.
Exactly. There's that word, me'uma, again. And then the rest of the verse.
Ach Yehonatan veDavid yad'u et hadabar.
Right. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter. So the verse is contrasting what Jonathan and David knew with what the young boy was ignorant of. But now let's get into the context of this verse in 1 Samuel. Start reading the English text from verse 35.
All right, so 1 Samuel chapter 20, starting at verse 35, I'm going to use the King James, if that's all right. Quote, "And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad was with them. And he said unto his lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad, and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and came to his master."
Right. Okay, now we get to verse 39.
Okay, quote, verse 39, 1 Samuel 20:39, quote, "But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter."
Okay, is that boy unconscious?
No.
They're giving him instructions. He's running to fetch arrows for them. He's clearly conscious.
Yeah.
But what did the Hebrew text say? Hana'ar lo yada me'uma. The youth did not know the matter. It doesn't mean he was unconscious. The verse was contrasting what David and Jonathan were discussing in private with the ignorance of the boy. Now, remember the Hebrew text in Ecclesiastes 9:5 when it says, the dead know not a thing?
Hametim einam yodim me'uma.
And what does it say here in 1 Samuel? The boy didn't know the matter.
Hana'ar lo yada me'uma.
Right, in both verses, it's the same word, me'uma. In fact, the structure in both verses is the same. You have the subject, then the negation, then the verb to know. And then that word me'uma. Read the Hebrew text in Ecclesiastes.
Hametim einam yodim me'uma.
Metim, the dead, that's the subject. Inam is the negation. Yodim is the verb to know. And there's that word, me'uma, a matter, a point, a thing. Subject, negation, verb. And then the word me'uma. Now go back to the verse in 1 Samuel.
Hana'ar lo yada me'uma.
Na'ar, the boy, that's the subject. Lo is the negation. Yada is the verb to know. And once again, there's the word me'uma, a matter, a point, a thing. So just as this construction does not mean the boy lacked consciousness, there's no reason to think that it means the dead lacked consciousness in Ecclesiastes.
I see what you mean. The text in 1 Samuel clearly and emphatically does not mean that the relevant young person lacked any knowledge whatsoever. And this provides an example of how a statement of this structure can be understood as a sort of a figure of speech, and which can have a very limited universe of discourse.
Exactly. In both cases, it is contrasting the knowledge of one side with the ignorance of the other on a specific matter, a specific me'uma. But that ignorance doesn't mean lack of consciousness. In Ecclesiastes, the dead don't know they're going to die because they're already dead.
True, good point.
They have no knowledge of a forthcoming death for them because there is no more future death for them. They're already dead.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're already dead. All right. That's a good point. But the verse in Ecclesiastes, the same verse, Ecclesiastes 9:5, it goes on to say that their memory is forgotten. Now, some people who I know of, they interpret that as meaning that the mind of the dead is basically wiped and shut down. Their brain is shut down, right? So here's the question for you now. If they have no memory, if they have memory of nothing, that might mean they're basically brain dead, right? No thought, right?
That's funny. Zikram means the memory of them, the memories others have of them. It means people forget about the dead. It doesn't mean their own memories in their own minds, as some people that we know called, the Bible MVP.
Yeah, certain Bible MVPs.
Certain Bible MVPs, The same word, zeketer, is used in Exodus 17:14 when God says he will blot out the remembrance of Amalek. It doesn't mean he's going to wipe out Amalek's own minds. It means eventually no one will remember Amalek. So the general theme is knowing and not knowing. In verse 1, it says, no man knoweth love or hatred. It is prepared before them. And that's the beginning part of Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Mm-hmm. Then in verse 12 of that same chapter 9, it says, for man also knoweth not his time. And as for the the memory part, is a part that it talks about it in verse 15 of that same chapter. Verse 15 talks about a certain old man whom others did not remember. It is talking about others forgetting about him.
All right. This is a good point. I think you covered this pretty well. Any closing thoughts?
I would say, if anyone has any questions or if anybody would like to comment, please leave, the comments in our chat.
Yeah, positive or negative. Share your thoughts.
Positive or negative. We definitely would like your feedback.
All right. This is good. All right. God bless.
All right there. God bless. Until next time.